NFL insider for ESPN, Adam Schefter.
Yeah,
Schefter, we had a chit-chat about the Colts there, because I'm a writer now all of a sudden on X.
Yeah, I see.
The thoughts were rolling out. That is a situation. Shane Steichen, I think a lot of people think good play caller, although some of the play calls yesterday, like, what are we doing? And then he came out afterwards and said, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, with their back spasms. That's why I said soreness. He's the one that kind of said that. It's like, okay, well, kind of threw him under the bus by not saying it, but how's he, what's the truth, what's not the truth? All this. You never know. Colts, do you have any intel on what the Colts could be? Because obviously I do not, especially at this point after what I wrote yesterday.
Well, that was unbelievably disappointing. I mean, you ripped into them, or you basically put out the facts the way they are. I don't even think you have to do that. They lost to the New York Giants, who hadn't won a game at home all year long. Giants came up with interceptions that they hadn't come up with all year long. The Giants were in the number one slot. The Colts are playing for their playoff lives, and they lost. They lost to the worst team up until yesterday in football. I mean, Pat, the facts sometimes speak for themselves.
Who makes the decisions over there, though? Like, who would be making the decision over there? Because I think a lot of us Colts fans are wondering. And once again, I do not have sources in the building. I don't.
Well, you know the way that building operates better than anybody, right? It has to start with the owner, correct?
Yeah, but who's the owner? Jim's the owner, but
yeah,
who's around every single day? His kids, I believe. Carly's on the sideline, literally with a headset every single day. Kaylin's in the build. It's like, would this be Carly's first massive decision? Like, is that how's it? Like, do you know?
I still think Jim makes the decision in the end. Ultimately, I still think Jim makes the decision, and I think he listens to the people around him. But I think he's making the decision.
Okay, so let's pivot away from a team that has been eliminated from the playoffs yet again. Okay, let's eliminate from them. And let's talk about the teams that are in the playoffs already. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. What do we think about resting playing? How do you think this pans out for this last week for the number one AFC seeded team?
I think we'll see Patrick Mahomes in the divisional playoff round. I think we'll see Chris Jones in the divisional playoff round. I think we'll see Isaiah Pacheco in the divisional playoff round. I think there are key players that have not been healthy that this is the ideal time to get them rest. And the Chiefs are playing at a level that is as strong as any time they've played at during the season. They're hitting their peak. And so when these guys aren't healthy, this is a chance to rest them. You're not going to risk them. They didn't risk them last year once they had clinched their spot. It was a different scenario. I don't think they were the number one seed, but they had clinched their spot, and Andy Reid used that last week to rest them. I know they'll get another bye, but this team is clicking right now, and you're not going to expose certain people at times like this. And here's the thing that I think a lot of people also need to understand, like, there's 53 players in the roster. So if there are 4, 5, 6 guys that don't play, there still are another 45 or so that are on a Super Bowl caliber roster that are going to go play against the Denver Broncos. Like, this isn't going to be a gimme game for the Broncos. And by the way, for Carson Wentz, this will be a Super Bowl. This is a big game for him. This is a big game for all the people that are going to be called on. Now, it's as favorable as Denver could hope it to be for a matchup against a team as great as the Chiefs, but it's not a layup. It's not a gimme. They still have to go out and take care of business. But I would expect that the Chiefs rest the key people that have had injury issues and don't expose them any further and get them ready for the divisional playoff round.
Okay, and that is Andy Reid's move. Remember, the reason why Patrick Mahomes is the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback, or became the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback, is because the number 1 overall seed or the number 2 overall seed, I forget which one, was already locked in going into the final week against the Broncos, and Alex Smith took a break. Patrick Mahomes goes in. Mahomes beats the Broncos. Then obviously you finish out the season with Alex Smith, trade his ass to Washington. Patrick Mahomes is the guy. A lot of us go, well, this is the best Alex Smith has ever played. He finally found it, and he got rid of him. And then everybody behind the scenes was like, just wait until you see this guy. Wait till you see this thing. Turns out that was the right move. Turns out that was the right move. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Carson Wentz and Patrick Mahomes, but Carson Wentz goes in there and gets a massive win for the Kansas City Chiefs. Boy, you're talking about a resurgence of a career all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And for us, I'm pumped that it's happening, not because the Colts are no longer lurking, but Carson Wentz football is electrifying. Carson Wentz football is electrifying. Anything could happen at any point of the game. Let's last question for me before the boys have some about current situations. Up there in New England, we brought this up last week, I think, to you. Connor is actually the one who says, I am Mayo guy. Okay, I'm Mayo guy. But I'm just letting the world... Do you hear that?
What happened?
Somebody's phone's going off.
That was my laptop. Sorry.
It's a 1999 ring. I mean, that was a pretty magical moment. Okay, so Connor though said there's some reports up in New England or coming out of New England that Kraft and the Crafts might, if it goes bad the final 2 weeks of the season, with just one season of being a head coach, Jerod Mayo, maybe move a different direction. And some people in New England are like, Vrabel would be the guy that would go and take over. The prince who was promised wasn't Mayo. It was actually Vrabel this whole time. What are your thoughts on what's taking place in New England? And after an ass beating in Foxborough with fans chanting anti-Mayo stuff, how do you see it kind of working out up there?
I think the Crafts have wanted to give Jerod Mayo every opportunity, and I still think that that's the case. Again, you never put too much into any one game, but if there's another game like that at the end of the year, I think it's going to lead to discussions. I think that they want to stick with Jerod Mayo. This is a guy that they've believed in. It's a guy they've promoted. It's a guy that they've stood behind. Now, there are things that they have to address. Like, there's a team, again, that needed help at wide receiver and traded the draft pick that became Ladd McConkey to the Chargers. Yeah. They traded that pick, and they used the picks they got back in return on Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, I believe.
Yep.
And so they need to get some things straightened out. Right now, they're in position to secure the number one pick in the draft. And by the way, like, if you're Buffalo, to me, you're resting everybody this weekend, and you're letting New England win that game because they're going to try to win the game. And if I'm Buffalo, it's my pleasure to have New England win the game so that they're dislodged from the first pick in the draft, which is an incredibly valuable spot to be in, especially when there are quarterback-needy teams lined up at 2, 3, 4, and are going to be vying to trade up to number 1, and you can get back a ransom for that pick. So, to me, Buffalo will send out guys they're going to be trying. Players are never going to be in the mindset, we're going to let this team. That's just not how the NFL operates. It's why the Giants hammered the Colts yesterday, because players are fighting for their jobs and trying to prove something on a weekly basis, and everything they do goes on tape. But the fact of the matter is, if I'm the Bills, like Josh Allen, we'll see you in the wild card round, and James Cook, we'll see you in the wild card round, and anybody of any import, we'll see you in the wild card round. But again, there's only so many guys you have. Guys have to play. You can't rest the whole roster. You can't forfeit the game.
I've been a part of a team that rested players the final 2 weeks. I think all the starters started because there's start streaks and all this type of shit and appearances and escalators and contracts, and then they were kind of replaced in the second half. It was like a preseason outfit, though. Because you say, at the beginning you said there's still a lot of guys that are on a Super Bowl roster, and then you said we need enough guys to play the game. It's like a lot of those guys are very good at their jobs, which are what? Well, special teams.
They're great.
They're great at special teams. They're great at giving looks in practice, but to have an entire game depend upon them, we shall see. Might see some superstars just like a preseason. You talk about the Buffalo Bills saying no Moss to the New England Patriots, so they dropped to 4 or 5 instead of number 1 overall. Let's talk about tonight's game. That means absolutely nothing. Tone has a question for you.
Yeah, Shefty, it does mean nothing because the only thing that matters for the Lions is next week's game against the Vikings. So does that mean the Lions are going to rest people tonight? And especially because they have been so banged up, why would they risk more people? Or is MCDC playing their guys tonight in a game that means nothing to them?
But that's how you think. That's how I think. And I had this debate with somebody in the Lions this morning. I'm like, there's nothing to play for. You're on a short week. You play the Vikings. And like Dan says, we're going to try to win this game. I'm like, okay. I mean, if you listen to his quotes, this is who they are. They are built on grit and toughness. They go for it. They're going to go for it tonight. Now, again, I think you have to see how the game is flowing and what's happening. And I think they're going in with the mindset, we're going to try to win this game. Again, this is, in talking to them, they're like, well, we could become the 10th team in NFL history to have 15 regular season wins. I said, okay, bravo. Sweet. Good for that. They're like, well, we don't want to take away from the energy and the momentum that we've built. Okay. But again, you're on a short week. Everything is riding Sunday night, but they're not thinking the way we're thinking. They're just not thinking that. Now, for me, it's hard to imagine that you're going to go run Jahmyr Gibbs into the ground tonight when David Montgomery's gone. But they remember that they lost to this team. They think that they can just go out and be tough every week. And Dan Campbell's been pretty adamant they're going to keep playing. Now, if they're up 2 touchdowns in the third, fourth quarter, could we see a quicker hook? Yes. Could certain situations in the game enter into his thinking? It would be illogical to think that they wouldn't. But going into the game, their mindset is we are going out there to win the game, and we'll see how the game unfolds and how he handles it from there.
Second bye week here, week 17.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Getting an opportunity. Let the boys, hey, let's get a couple of drives in. And then bang, go head out there. Now,
that ain't MCDC.
I agree it's not, but boy.
Football family, the whole family over there.
He'll be going for it on 4th down, too, tonight. He'll be Jerod Goff, QB, sneaking into 4th downs. First quarter, second quarter, we need it. There's some dogs on the Niners defense that can hit. You know, they still
fly around.
And this game means nothing.
Yeah.
Hey, but the Niners have shut down more of their roster than the Lions are considering shutting down their roster. There have been a lot of guys who have been hurt, a lot of guys placed on IR. They're missing a lot of guys already. The Lions don't care. They're going in there to play the game, which, again, as fans, we could sit here and debate it. I think all of us would say, why are you doing that? Well, okay. Well, I think most fans would say, I don't love it. Like, I would risk
if someone gets hurt, you won't love it.
What are we doing?
No, but if they do a stumble, fumble, bump, throwback, everybody's doing double throwbacks these days. Okay, we're doing a triple throwback. That just Ben Johnson unloading the clip tonight on Monday Night Football would be awesome. That would be fantastic.
Well, they think that they have an endless supply of trick plays, so it's no big deal to use whatever they want tonight in a meaningless game. But again, they're going to get back to Detroit, I don't know 6 in the morning on Tuesday, and they're going to get underway with preparations for a monstrous Sunday night game. So they're on a short week of a West Coast trip, and they're the Lions, and they're coached by, and they don't care.
What is I love that. I love everything about it. What, man? The game, they're not keeping score, man?
Oh, okay.
Okay. That's cool, yeah. Yeah, I want my guys to be losers going into the playoffs. Yeah. Biggest game of the year coming up next weekend. Yeah, we want to have an L hanging over us going in there. No way. Look for the Lions to win by 60 tonight.
Exactly. That's culture. That's MCDC football, and that's why we're in this position in the first place. Let's go beat the hell out of them, get some revenge, and then we'll go win next week too.
I love that.
Tone would like to have a word with you, but that's the way the Lions are thinking.
I was just asking a question.
No, because it's a very real question.
Valid.
Because
it is.
This game would normally last week of the season for teams. Instead, it's second to last week of the season. It's like, do you take a little things because then you're going to be back next week, so you don't have rust going into the playoffs, but you still got a chance to rest a little bit. Maybe it will be a Cam Ward situation. Maybe it will be.
Well, and let's be honest, this defense is brand new. They need all the reps they can get together.
What happened in Miami? Con has a question.
Yeah, Schefter, kind of last week out of nowhere, Tua was downgraded to doubtful and then obviously didn't play yesterday. What's his status? And can we expect him playing this upcoming weekend with the lurking Dolphins still looking for a playoff spot?
I don't think it's a lock he plays this week. I think his status is in question. I think that would be the fairest way of saying it. I think that hip was more banged up last week than people realize. It's the same hip that he had surgery on in college. It's a different spot. But the fact of the matter is it was bothering him last week and got word over the weekend that he wasn't going to play. They're like, no, he's still trying to play. Okay. And obviously he felt like he couldn't play in the end. And I think that they're back in that spot again this week. I think Tua will see if he can go out there and try to play. But I think on Monday, 6 days out, I think it's absolutely fair to say that his status for the upcoming game against the Jets is in question, and we'll see if he can make it back.
Jets coming off a tough one. I mean, an absolutely tough one. But the Dolphins still lurking. Need Carson Wentz to do his thing against the Denver Broncos. Huntley looked much better than he did earlier in the year, though. Maybe McDaniel gave him a different offense, Gumpy?
He just had more time to figure it out. He was doing the motions and shit. He actually played really well. We need him back next year to be the backup because he looked unreal.
In the middle of the season, he didn't have the offense figured out. So whenever he was out there, the offense was actually inept. We saw it against the Colts. It was terrible. Yeah. Yesterday against the Browns, very good defense, was able to accomplish some stuff. Looks like he might have to go for a little bit. in the biggest game of the year.
He's starting a playoff game in 2 weeks.
The hip, how long should we be? Is this going to be something where they say, and then it's going to linger, we assume?
I don't know. I just know that right now we don't know whether he's going to be able to play this week, and that they could have to lean on Tyler Huntley again this week. It's possible. We'll see how the week unfolds. I don't know yet, but again, this is an injury he's had before to the same body part.
Well,
and I know that it was definitely significant last week, and it was bothering him. He couldn't play with their playoff hopes on the line, and we'll see if he can make it back this time.
What was it? Bo Jackson?
Yeah.
Had that, but it was just vastly different because of modern science. He was able to get back in there, but it's something like the joint.
I think he dislocated.
And then blood. Yeah. And then I think blood starts straight. I think it's like a very dangerous. If I remember the Bo Jackson documentary that they did about the injury that basically ended his entire athletic career, I think Tua had something similar.
Yeah, because Bo Jackson had popped out and back in the same play, but the blood kept flowing.
Science, modern science. Hopefully Tua is A-OK. Speaking of being A-OK, Philadelphia Eagles are A-OK at the number 2 overall seed. D-Bud has a question for you.
A-OK. Obviously some questions at the quarterback position, but running back, Saquon Barkley, he cracked the 2,000-yard mark last week, and I saw a heated debate with you and the guys pregame leading up into it. You said basically, hey, they're going to rest him in the last week of the season. Some of the guys on the panel like, hey, go and get the record. Where are we at now with what Nick Sirianni is going to do with Saquon going forward with obviously needing 101 yards to break the all-time record, which Eric Dickerson absolutely does not want him to do?
Well, Darius, we have not heard official word from the Eagles, but I think that everything that they've said and done speaks volumes. As soon as Saquon Barkley went over 2,000 yards yesterday and got to 2,003, he came right out of the game. They didn't leave him in there to continue his chase of Eric Dickerson. They got him right out of the game after that run, and he was put on ice. And now he's one of 9 running backs in NFL history to go over 2,000. And after the game, they asked him about it, and he's like, hey, we've got bigger things in mind. They've asked Nick Sirianni. We're not thinking about that. As I said yesterday, as I said this week, I'd be floored if he played again until the playoffs.
Really?
I don't care how close he is to Eric Dickerson's record. Again, everybody takes a different tact and different approaches. The Lions tonight, they're going in. They got work to do. That's how they approach this. The Eagles, they're not going to have a bye. I think that Saquon's going to be put in bubble wrap next week, and then he'll be unwrapped for the wild card game. They have the number 2 seed. Might it have been different if they had put away the number 1 seed? Maybe that would have been a conversation, I guess. But I don't think you're risking putting out a 2,000-yard rusher in a meaningless game against the Giants, no matter how close he is to Dickerson's record.
He's 100 yards out. If that was like 45 yards, I wonder.
Yeah,
like if it was 45 yards, be like, we can give a half, right? We can give a go for
Against the Giants?
a half.
It's like a movie. It's like
he broke his single game rushing record against the Giants first time at MetLife, and then this time could break the all-time rushing record against the Giants.
By the way, didn't Saquon take himself out of the game and not decide to go back in earlier this season when the Eagles single game rushing record was on the line? It was some record that was in his and he wasn't. That's not the way he thinks. It's not the way he's wired. He doesn't care about his mindset is on getting a Super Bowl, not breaking another record.
And we'll tell you how the Giants people are thinking right now.
I don't even know if that's gonna happen, but
I'm going to have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes to Philadelphia, I'll tell you that. As I've told you, just being honest. I've been around enough players. But he's the most popular player we have by far.
Yeah.
Just breaks the all-time record against his team.
Oh, man. Has to happen.
And then in the single, oh, my God.
What a tough situation.
100 yards. Saquon could find that.
Get that in a half.
2 runs.
First quarter.
Yeah.
Might be able to. Now, this Giants team's good. People forget.
Yeah.
You saw what they just did.
Might have found
By the way, Pat, here's another thing. You think the Eagles, again, they have nothing at stake. If they win, doesn't impact them at all. If the Giants win on Sunday, they probably fall to what, 8, 9, 10 in the draft order? Like a win. The Eagles losing is a win for the Eagles organization.
Bills, Patriots, same situation. Now we got Eagles, Giants, same situation here.
Now, again, I want to be very clear. The players are not thinking like that. They're going to go out and play. But you can't tell me that organizationally, that they aren't thinking, well, if we let the Patriots win, if we let the Giants win, if we don't put out our best guys, if we don't do everything we can to win this game and they win, their draft order crashes. And to get to where they want to be or where they are now, like the Giants need a quarterback. Everybody knows it. They're at 4. If they win on Sunday, they're going to roughly 10. Roughly 10. How are they getting back up there?
Saquon Sirianni. Sorry, buddy. Gonna have to get 100 yards earlier in the season. Dickerson did it in 14 games, too.
I can tell you this. I think the Eagles care a lot more about the Giants falling to 10 than Saquon Barkley breaking Eric Dickerson's all-time single-season rush record.
Saquon's been special, though.
Yeah.
That has been so much fun to watch. And obviously, he's going to be at the NFL Honors if they're not playing in the Super Bowl as an MVP finalist. Running back, being able to do that, obviously, in the modern age that we're in is insane. Best offensive player will obviously come in to the award to Saquon Barkley. It's like, congrats to you, Saquon. Especially because I, like many, had no idea this was possible. Because we thought he was just going, just another Giants wasteland. That's what we thought it was going to be this entire time. But instead, the Giants said, we can't pay him $13 million a year. Yeah, all right. No. Get the hell out of
John Mara called it. John Mara called it.
Him with his hand on his face.
He's got to be so mad.
By far our most popular player. Well, there's a reason. He's also your most best player, MVP, which I think is what he's going to win at the NFL Honors, even though he deserves MVP, valuable player conversations. Because look at the way this team is finishing this year versus how they finished last year. It's because of the run game being able to do what it's doing. And also Kenny Pickett and McKee can spin that thing. What a time to be Philadelphia Eagles fans. Congrats to you guys. Last question here. We appreciate you.
And it's not just the way that Saquon plays, it's the way he carries himself too. Like, he's class and a pro. Like, that's the kind of guy you want in your locker room. Last question. Sorry.
Hey, no problem. Ty has a question for you.
Shefty, has any of the conversation around Sam Darnold changed over the last couple weeks? A lot of people saying, hey, there's no way they can pay him, and then they're potentially going to get the number 1 seed. We saw how the team reacted to him in the locker room yesterday after beating Green Bay. Is there any way that they actually let go of Sam Darnold now?
Ty, I'm glad you asked that question, because my reaction to seeing that video when Sam Darnold walked into that locker room and they all jumped all around him and popped the champagne and did whatever they did, there it is. Like, look at Kevin O'Connell. He's watching this.
It's a movie scene, brother.
Wait, well, hold on. He's watching this, and in the back of his mind, they just won a huge game, so not how he's thinking now, but how can you let somebody that your team feels that strongly about walk out the door? That video tells you that they're not going to let him go. That's what that video tells you right there.
I agree. We agree. We saw it the same exact way, although it's going to be a big number. Will they be able to afford it? Will Sam do a little business with him, too, to remain there? We'll watch you tonight. What are you doing? You're from home?
Yeah, sitting here, getting ready for the pregame show tonight, Monday Night Countdown.
Hey, Mazel. Happy Hanukkah.
We're getting ready for the show. The game might not have as big a stakes, but I'm attacking this show. I'm treating this show like it's the most important show that we've done all year long.
Let's go! That's Adam Schefter. We're back on the other side.